topics and opinions expressed on the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4WN Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4WN Radio, its employees, or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4WN Radio.
Hello and welcome to Fearless, Fabulous You. I am your host, Melanie Young, and this is a beautiful day here in New Orleans, Louisiana, where I currently live. Really, it's amazing here. Like, there is no more humidity. And I just got back from an incredible trip to Italy. As you know, I travel a lot for work, which is I write about wine, food, and travel, and get to go to some amazing places. We are going to have a really fun show today to talk about a place I've actually never been and I want to go. We're going to talk about the Mother Road. It's called Route 66. It's one of the most historic routes in the United States. It's called the Mother Road due to its significance in American history. It's the iconic highway that cuts through the center of the United States from Chicago, Illinois to Santa Monica, California. It covers 8 states and many, many historic landmarks and, of course, eateries, which we're going to talk about today. What's neat is this iconic highway, Route 66, was established on November 11th, 1926. It spans 2,448 miles, connecting, as I said, Chicago, Illinois to Santa Monica. And the highway is celebrating its centennial, 100 years. Considering that it has withstood the test of time and all the superhighways built around it, that's pretty amazing. What's exciting for me is I turned 66 this year, and one of my dreams was to drive Route 66 and celebrate my birthday on Route 66. That didn't happen because it's a long drive and I can't do it myself, but I still want to go to, I'd love to do the drive, or at least from parts of it to parts of it, because frankly, with all the global traveling I've done, I've actually seen very little of the heartland of the United States. And Route 66, the Mother Road, really cuts through the heart of the United States. And what's neat about it is you will see many landscapes and also meet some really interesting people who shape America. And we're going to talk about that today and hopefully whet your appetite for travel, but also for food. Because I have with me the author of the Route 66 Cookbook, which is a cookbook that will take you from Chicago to Santa Monica with recipes and landmarks along the way, and interesting stories, facts, and figures. Here's a photograph of it as well. It's called Route 66, the Route 66 Cookbook, America's Mother Road, and the best recipes from its roadside restaurants. If you love road tripping like I do, and you love to discover really cool places from cute and family-owned to totally quirky, you're going to love this book and you're going to love this show. So buckle up, because we're joined today by Linda Lee, who is the author of the Route 66 Cookbook. Linda is an acclaimed author of many books, including the New Camp Cookbook, the Backyard Fire Cookbook, the CSA Cookbook, and the No Waste Vegetable Cookbook, and the National Parks Cookbook, which I'm a big National Parks person, so I can't wait to get that cookbook. She has an award-winning blog called GardenBetty.com. It's kind of cool because there's a lot of gardening in there. She lives in Bend, Oregon on a huge piece of property, is really an expert on gardening. She raises chickens. She's like me. She's really into no food waste. And lucky Linda got the contract to write this book because frankly, it's the dream book I would love to write on the dream trip I'd love to take in the United States. So I'm happy to welcome to Fearless, Fabulous You, the author of the Route 66 Cookbook, Linda Lee. Welcome.
Hi there. Good morning.
Wow. You see, I got the map behind me because I really did say to my husband, David, I want to go celebrate my 66th birthday of Route 66, but we didn't because we were already somewhere else when I came up with the idea. But there's always time because there's plenty of it. And as you have said, and you really exude in the book, it's always time to travel and do it while you can, right?
Absolutely. And with Route 66, it's also constantly evolving. So I feel like it's a trip that you can't really do just once. Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely I would have to return to it because there were so many points of interest that I skipped or did not have time for, or, there's a lot to pack in one trip.
Yeah, and it's a slim book. It's not like a big fat book, and there's a lot of America to cover. So I'm sure it was frustrating to winnow it down because you have 66 recipes from the Midwest to the West Coast. And what's neat about it is the cultures change, the recipes change with the states. I'm curious, Linda, where did you grow up? First, let's start with your background and what inspired you to become a writer.
I grew up in Las Vegas, Nevada. I'm a first-generation American. I live in Bend, Oregon now, but in between all of that, I have also lived in Los Angeles area, where I spent a significant part of my life, and I also lived in New York. So I've kind of been all over the country.
Have you been working as a writer and author all this time, or did you have another career and switch?
I did have another career. I went to school for graphic design, communications, and that's what I actually did for a long time before I started my blog, was web development and graphic design. Got a little bit burnt out on coding, felt like I needed to get outside and work with my hands more. So when I lived in LA, I lived in this beautiful property that was a 1/4 acre, which is kind of unheard of for LA. And it had already a garden that was established on there. I had never gardened before in my life. This was actually back in 2010. And I was so intrigued with what was growing in the backyard. So I started my blog, Garden Betty, as a way to share what I was doing with my friends, with my mother-in-law. I think they were the only people who were reading it at the time. It was just a diary, and I did not think anything of it. And very shortly, that blog became my career. So I pivoted to becoming a blogger, which is nice because it still involves coding and design and the things that I love. I'm very much a tech geek, and I've been working in tech since I was 18. But it also allows me to get outside, which is my other love.
I think that's great that you were able to combine both a passion and a profession that, was a good profession, because a lot of people blog, but they don't make any money. It's not sustainable. They do it on the side. It's catch as catch can. It is actually really hard to maintain and grow and develop a blog and make it successful. What would you recommend to all the people who are listening and watching going, wow, how did she do that? Why can't I do that? My Substack's not making any money. My blog's not getting, before we dive into the book, just some words of wisdom.
It's very hard to say because when I started in 2010, blogging was still relatively new. The landscape has changed a lot with AI and just evolving technology now. When I started coding, I was doing it by hand. And you don't need to ever do anything by hand. You can just kind of drag and drop and click like it, they make things so easy now, but yet at the same time, it makes it a lot harder for someone to break into this industry. There's a lot more competition. The way that people consume media is different now. So you really have to find your audience.
Yeah.
And I think for anybody who is entering blogging or, influencing or, anything in that realm right now, so much of that has to focus on video, because that's the way that a lot of people consume. But I'm kind of old fashioned, I guess I'm just from this different generation where I still love the written word. I still love books. I love to read actual pages and not just look at my screen all day. And I guess because I've worked in media for so long, when I am not working, I like to be off of media. And I think for people who want to get into it, you really do have to find a balance because otherwise you would burn out quite easily.
Oh, I am so with you. First of all, we really only started doing video for Fearless, Fabulous You and my other podcast, The Connected Table, recently because we were doing it on Skype and Skype went out of business. And then my people who I work with are like, well, you have no choice. You're going to be doing video, even though we have audio. So it's been an adjustment, but you know what? It's been great because I think our numbers are better, even better because people like to see. It's a challenge because I'm a written girl. I love, books. I'm holding your book right here. When people send me PDFs, publicists, I kind of bristle because I really don't want to read a book on a computer. I like to look at the book, and I have here, a copy of the Route 66 Cookbook, and I have little, I always have little pieces of a napkin and all the pages I want to talk about, because that's what I do. I support public libraries too. I support them, and everybody out there, support your public library. It's more than just books. They're amazing, right? Do you have a great library you go to?
I do. Well, we have two in Bend. We're still a relatively small town compared to where I lived before. There's actually an amazing new library that is about to open in the center of town. It's massive. So I'm pretty excited to check that out. But
I tell you, in another career, I'd be a librarian. My library is like 3 blocks away. I go there all the time. But what's neat about libraries, you could check out, in some you can check out crafts. You can, I donate all my mother's gift wrapping to the craft place in Chattanooga, the big library there. There's cookware you can check, puzzles.
It's library
amazing.
Also, like you can check out tools and like forest passes and museum passes and things like that from our library.
Yeah, we get the culture pass here in New Orleans, and we can go to museums for free. And I don't think people really realize that. Well, you've written a couple of books, and this one is Quarto Publishing. So are all of them with Quarto Publishing?
They are, yes. I've been with them since 2013. I've been with Quarto for a long time.
They do a good job. I mean, I think there are a couple of books out there by publishers. I can spot them now, and I go, okay, I like them. And there's a few where I want to like slap the publisher and say, make the font bigger. I'm not going to say, I won't say who that is, but I railed on them recently because I couldn't read the book. So this is a fun book. There have been other Route 66 cookbooks if I Googled. So I want to, everybody, it's the Route 66 cookbook, best recipes from every stop along the way by Linda Lee. How, when you did your research, did you decide to differentiate and make this book your imprint for this particular time, which is getting toward the centennial of the highway?
Well, this book, when I was pitched this book by my editor, he was seeing it as, I guess the last book that I did was the National Parks Cookbook. And it was different from the ones previous to that because it really did involve me traveling to a good part of the parks that I featured in the book. It's sort of like the recipes are divided between my own original recipes as well as recipes that I got from these iconic national park lodges and restaurants. So when we were thinking about how to structure the Route 66 cookbook, I had to travel. I mean, I had to travel a lot further, and living in Oregon, neither endpoint of Route 66 is close to where I am. So I had to either drive and start in LA first or drive and start in Chicago. So even though the Mother Road is only about 2,400 miles, I drove 7,000 miles in one summer.
Because you're a mother of two adorable daughters, and the photographer is Will Taylor your husband, partner?
He is, yes, okay. And he has photographed all of my books.
Okay, well, he's a good photographer. You're lucky you. I was curious about how you broke this trip. I mean, that's the reason I haven't done it, because my husband doesn't drive. Oh, don't get me. And I drove. We lived, just so you know, we lived on the road after we sold our house and did an extended road trip. So we just drove up and down the East Coast and here, and people were following us. So obviously, I have a thing about road trips. How did you break this trip up and do your? How many trips did you actually have to take to travel Route 66? And how did you travel? Were you in an SUV? Were you in a camper? Because people are probably watching or listening to this, going, "That sounds cool. How did she do it? Like, what do you need to do?"
So many years ago, I'd say probably at least 10 years ago, when I lived in LA, I have actually driven with my then boyfriend, now husband. We've done small parts of Route 66 before that were through California and through Arizona. And so I was always familiar with it, but I didn't really know the extent of the road. Like when you're on a non-Route 66 road trip, you see the sign on the road, you're like, oh, that's cool, I'm on a historic highway. But then that's not your destination. So you don't really think too much about it. And when I was researching how to do this book in the time frame that I had for writing a cookbook, we realized that since we have 2 young children, when we did this last summer, they were 5 and 8 years old. We realized that we had to do it over the summer, which is when you think about how far you have to travel, that's a short period of time to do it. And we did it all in one shot. because summer is really the best time to see that country without running into, snow or tornadoes. There's a lot that can get you out there. So we have a 24-foot RV, a mini Winnie. We named her Wanda for Wanderlust. And it's amazing because we did the whole trip in the RV. So we drove from Oregon down to LA, where we did have a lot of friends. And so we spent a week there. There's actually a significant part of Route 66 that travels. California is obviously a very large state. And going from the coast to the inland border with Arizona, like there is a lot to see there. And Route 66 is kind of hidden in plain sight within LA, because it wraps, like it starts in Santa Monica, but then it also goes through West Hollywood and like the middle of LA, and it goes through Highland Park, places that you don't really think. And then of course, like through the Inland Empire. So doing all of that takes like a fair amount of time, because I was trying to devote time to really seeing these restaurants in person, meeting with owners or chefs, as much as I could. And due to the nature of the trip, we were only driving during the day for the most part, trying to cover like a lot of ground, but also trying to take our time. So most of the trip, we had to just wing it. If I had meetings planned, it really could not be planned or scheduled more than 2 days in advance or 3 days in advance, because I wouldn't know exactly when I was getting to a particular point on our map.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to rush us through, a place if it turned out to be awesome and we wanted to spend more time there. I wanted to save time for like spontaneous side trips. And we actually made it so that we did not veer off more than like 5 miles off Route 66, because otherwise there's so many side trips that you can take. Like we skipped the Grand Canyon on this one because it was too far, because there's so much to see just in like that one small part of Arizona that we were in. So,
well, so the first tip would be to get an RV, or you can rent an RV. You can, you don't have to buy an RV, because it's going to be more affordable and easier to, although RVs, people asked us if we were going to get an RV when we were road tripping. Well, and I'm not driving an RV. I could barely drive my SUV. And two, parking an RV is a big PIA, pain in the ass, because you got to go to a certain area. You can't just like tool into downtown and park your RV in many places. I would think it'd be really hard this sounds like such an amazing endeavor and something I would dream to do. I think about the road trips I've taken and the book I should be writing. I think what the hardest part is making appointments to see all these restaurants, because, you can't go during rush time. So you can't just like tootle in at lunch and try to get an interview. You can eat lunch, but then you got to schedule it during that downtime. And it looks like a lot of these places don't have a lot of downtime, or maybe they do because of where they're located. But I could see where it'd be hard to just like have a book schedule out and you kind of wing it. But that kind of makes it fun, right?
It does, and sometimes it's hit or miss, because I would really want to visit a place. When we're in Oklahoma, I had a restaurant on my list, like I needed to go see. And it turns out that they were on summer break for like 2 weeks. Because restaurants, it's like I could understand, like they would be closed on like Sundays, or on Mondays or Tuesdays, and that's kind of standard across the board. But then I'd show up on like a Thursday and they're like, oh no, we're on summer vacation, because a lot of them are mom and pop restaurants, and so they need their summer vacation. I was like, oh, well, I won't be here in 2 weeks.
So did you run into any weird, yes, you're correct. Warm, summer is a great time to do it, although it could be baking hot in the Midwest.
It is very hot, hottest summer I've ever experienced.
Yeah, I went to Texas. So I'm from Tennessee and lived in New York, and now we live in New Orleans. When I went to Bryan, Texas to do a grape stomp in August, I thought I was going to die, because that Midwest heat is not the New Orleans heat, is not the New York heat, is not the Tennessee heat. It's like an oven heat. It's quite amazing. It's prairie heat, my husband, David, said. Did you have any bumps? Were there bumps along the road, like weather? Did you get a flat tire? Did you have to deal with anything like that, or was it fairly smooth?
I would say that the toughest part of the trip was going through the Inland Empire of California. So that's when we were driving through like Riverside County, San Bernardino County into Arizona, like Needles. It was, I remember looking at my weather app and it was 120 degrees. And the RV is amazing, but it had a little bit of trouble keeping the fridge and the freezer cold, while we were there. And we, I can't think, we were in Yermo, California. It's the middle of nowhere, extremely hot. And we pulled into a campground there to stop and, kind of let the RV relax for a day. And we were in the pool all day, and the pool was kind of like once the temperatures get to be that way, there's no such thing as like a cool pool.
And the girls were probably like, why are we doing this, Mom? I just want to go swimming because, you got young girls. What are the names?
Gemma and Ember.
And they're just adorable in the book. You have a really cute, I can't show it, but they're you and Jenna Ember like at this big sign in Illinois, Route 66. So it's so cute. So you went from California to Illinois.
Yes.
Okay.
So we did it technically in reverse.
Yeah, you did. So we did 8 states, right? 8 states over 2,000 miles. Let's talk about some of the stops and because I love the little storytelling. I thought the recipes were fun. Some of them were really crazy recipes, recipe dishes. And I have to say, one of the things I loved is it seems like every single one of these eating establishments has an amazing road sign or statue as well. So it's not just the food; it's like the landscaping and the photos. It's just incredible. The book actually starts in Illinois, and you started in California. Which way would you? Let's follow the book. So your first state is Illinois. Now, here's what I know. I have been to actually one of the restaurants in this book, the Berghoff. I actually looked them all up on the James Beard Awards, which I started to see who else had become a classic. And there was only one, the Berghoff. None of the others. I couldn't believe it. Even Lou Mitchell's. So let's pick one. We'll pick one from each state. And why was it really interesting? What you want to share about it? And we have about 30 minutes, so we're cool.
Okay. So in Illinois, I'm going to go with something that's a little less conventional, because I feel like on Route 66 in Illinois, everybody goes to the Berghoff and Lou Mitchell's. They are the classics and icons. Like they've been there for decades.
Right.
But what I really enjoyed, and keep in mind that I started my trip in reverse. So I went through like a phase of lots of corn dogs, hot dogs, hamburgers, and milkshakes, like my weight in milkshakes. So I discovered this small town, and sometimes sometimes we roll into a town and I'm not really sure what we're going to do there. It just so happens with like timing and how far we've driven, how fast we've driven. We end up in this town. We're still in Route 66. And I was like, okay, well, what's around here? And that's part of the discovery, because a lot of these restaurants don't have websites or any kind of web presence or an Instagram or, anything like that. And that's what makes 66 so fun, is the discovery once you're actually on the road. So I found this Filipino street food restaurant called Lola's. And I was so intrigued because it is in the middle of nowhere, and it's not a region in Illinois where you expect to find a lot of ethnic food. And it's a tiny town. So,
what's the name of the town?
What is the name of the town?
I'm looking it up right now. There were some towns in here I never heard of. I mean, Lola's. It's crispy chicken adobo rings, Pontiac,
Illinois.
Yeah.
So when we pulled into downtown Pontiac, I found this restaurant. From the outside, it doesn't look like much compared to other 66 restaurants. There's no muffler men outside. There's no big sign. It's like it's in a old strip mall. But we walked in and it was so cute inside. And the owner, Anna, happened to be working there. And a lot of times I don't introduce myself right away because I just want to be treated like a normal customer, you know, and enjoy the food. And so when I walked in, we ordered some of their main dishes, and the crispy adobo chicken wings was one of them. We also had a few other things like noodles, pork belly. I mean, the food was absolutely amazing. It is just the type of like home cooked food that you crave when you've been on the road for a while, even if you haven't been on the road for as long as we have. It's just nice to go into a restaurant where it feels like it's got like such a great family vibe as far as the people who are there, because it's, you know, like Lola's is a place where it really depends on the locals, not tourists, you know, which also makes it different.
I would think a lot of these restaurants are like that because they're in such small. I mean, Pontiac, who's ever heard of it, right? The one that caught my eye was in Springfield, and it's the Morel Mushroom Pie because it's Muldaner's restaurant. Oh my God, that looked amazing. I mean, I didn't know, I really haven't been anywhere except Chicago, so I learned a lot about these, you know, tiny little places like Litchfield, Jew Belt's Bakery and Restaurant. You know, never heard of some of these places. There's a lot of pastry in the book too, by the way. Yeah. So then we go now. That was Illinois. There's some. I thought the butter spritz cookies look kind of fun. I haven't tried anything because I just got back from Italy. But what's nice is I don't see a lot of pasta in here. And right now I'm off pasta for a while. But Weezy's coleslaw look kind of good. So then we go to Missouri. Okay, my dad was from St. Louis. You have a beautiful photo of the arch. Thank you, Will. Beautiful photo of the arch. I went to St. Louis quite a bit as a child. I remember the Crown Candy Kitchen, which is in the book, and the Heavenly Hash. I happen to remember that. What is in the state of, and you have something called the Heart Stopping BLT. I'll let my husband can eat that one. I don't eat meat. I'll let him eat anything. I'm like, you know, eat away. And then what I also like was they did this in Chattanooga where I grew up, the Curly Q Dog in Brentwood, and they cut the hot dog up, and they did this at this, I think the Dairy Queen in Chattanooga, and they cut the hot dog up, and so it turns into a little circle to go on the hamburger bun. And it's Nathan's famous Frank. And I'm like, wow, I remember that as a child.
Yeah, so that place, the Curly Q Dog, at Carl's Drive-In, we really love that place because it's this very small drive-in restaurant where it's kind of you can enter the building from two sides because they have booth seating, counter seating, and you only get, I think, like 8 seats on each side of this counter, and then their kitchen is right in the middle. And from there, we sat next to Pam, who was dishing up all of the hamburgers. You know, and you can like watch them make your burger, and then they have IBC root beer there, and they have the original formula that was given to them decades ago. And so you're just sitting at this counter eating the Curly Q Dog or like a smash burger. And it's so simple, but it's so fresh because I guess it's because you're watching them doing it. And it's just so efficient. Like they do what they do it really well. And it's one of those places where people are like lined up at the door, you know, like waiting for you to finish to like claim one of those. It's like 16 seats, you know, on either side of the building.
That's small. Yeah.
It was very small.
You probably can't make reservations at a lot of these places. I think they're supposed to just pop in.
You do. Yeah. A lot of them, I guess like in the book, like half of them would be very casual, fast places. And the other half are like really nice sit down restaurants. And so you do have like your pick, you know, of what you would like to try.
I like this one. We're on 66. It's in Cuba, Missouri, right? And the recipe is cream of chicken and wild rice soup, which sounds pretty basic. And easy to make, and it looks delicious. The type of thing, and it was called the 4-Way because it was a filling station. A lot of these buildings were something else, and maybe they become an eatery or they were part of something else. Because I would think when you're on this historic road, you got to do more than just serve food sometimes, right?
Well, a lot of, 66 has evolved a lot over time. Back when in the heyday, 50s and 60s, they were filling stations or motor courts, like motor lodges, because they were catering to the needs of the people who were traveling along 66.
Right.
Nowadays, you have the interstate, so people are really driving on these freeways and not on this. I mean, I wouldn't even call Route 66 a highway because some of it is just so slow going.
How many lanes is Route 66?
It varies. You could be on just like one lane in certain areas to mostly 2-lane. And then if you're lucky, you'll be in like a nicer paved 4-lane road. But some of Route 66 have just become like residential farm roads. And they've preserved certain areas of it where it's turned into like a bike path, or it's turned into they kept there's one section that is a preserved red brick road.
Wow.
And it is kind of like, just like it's next to the main road, but you can veer off onto this red brick road if you'd like.
Are there parts of it as you travel? I mean, right now we're still in the Midwest. Does it change and get more highway-ish when you get out to the far west?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Then once you get into the far west, like in California, it becomes like completely paved, and you're going through a city.
Interesting.
Lots of stoplights.
I noticed that in the book too, because I mean, most of these towns I'd never heard of. They look really small. This is the type of thing, Linda, that Dave and I did when we were doing our 1.5-year road trip. I mean, because I have a fear of super highways. I hate driving them. So we go off the highway, drive the small ones, and whenever we see anything that looks interesting, quirky, and foodie, like a family-owned little bit, we would swerve in and just have, I'm writing about it right now. We would just have something to eat, photograph it, and go, I love this place, So this is really great. So we're in the heartland. We're still in Missouri. I feel like I need geography.
And I want to say that, like depending on where you live in the country, you can really start the route from either end. But it's really nice starting from Chicago, because Illinois, they've really got it figured out as far as the signage and marking all of the points of interest.
Oh, good.
Like they have a Route 66 commission in Illinois, and they really care about preserving the road and the history there. And so you absolutely cannot get lost.
I did. There is a website. I mean, because there is a Route 66 because they're doing a centennial. So there is a lot when you go on to do your research. So I think that's helpful too, if somebody wants to really plan a trip. I can think of all sorts of marketing things I'd be doing around this. Carthage, I've heard of Carthage, Missouri. Moms use strolls. Kansas, I have never been to. I accidentally joined the World War I Museum in Kansas City, thinking I was joining the World War II Museum in New Orleans to go to a Great Gatsby party. And I got all dressed up to go to the Gatsby party. And as we're preparing to go, I said, David, check out the parking lot because there's pre-parking. And he went on the website. He said, Melanie, this is in Kansas City. And I realized I literally bought a membership to the World War I Museum, and I'm all dressed up in my Gatsby gear to go to a party that was in another state. So I keep saying to David, we need to at least go to Kansas City because I'm a member of the World War I Museum. So the only thing I knew about Kansas City, besides the cocktail scene in Kansas City and the J. Rieger and Stroud's choke your own chicken and barbecue, I'd never heard of any of these places. So talk to me about Kansas, because really I don't know a lot about Kansas except Dorothy.
I feel a lot of people would probably echo that, especially because Route 66 only goes through 13 miles of Kansas.
What is a short chapter? It is a short chapter.
There's still a lot to see there. They do a good job of, really leaning into that Route 66 aesthetic. So, Cars, the Pixar movie that has all of the, there's like all these little animated cars, and it talks about preserving this town called Radiator Springs. It's one of my kids' favorite movies because we watched it before we went on this trip. So there's Cars memorabilia on a lot of these places to draw in visitors. And Kansas has lots of they have like these model cars that mimic the actual cars from the movie, just kind of like posted up as like their city art along the roadway, which makes it really fun.
Yeah.
So now,
So Kansas is this. I'm looking. So when I go like this, everybody, I'm looking at the book because I can't physically hold it up because it's Kansas is the sunflower state. I just want to say right here, Linda, when I was a little girl, I had a game board called Game of the States. And I love that game board more than any of my other game boards because I learned about all the states and I planned road trips and I saw Route 66. And my dad was so proud of me that this is a great thing to do, parents. He signed me up for every tourist commission visitor center in the United States to send me stuff.
That's really wonderful.
So I got like buckets of mail from every state. It was a great way to learn geography. I have a question for you. While you're doing this, did you have like a reading list for the girls or anything to make this like an educational experience?
We had them create scrapbooks.
Okay, good. Good.
So we had like all the different supplies for them in the RV, and every place that we went, they would we would collect lots of memorabilia, like receipts or stickers, stamps. A few of these places, like in Illinois, is it Illinois or Oklahoma? They would have like Route 66 passports, where you visit the participating museum or store or exhibit, and they would give you like a little stamp in your passport. So the kids did a lot of that. They also, we visited a couple of national parks, and they did the Junior Ranger badge program, they did at the Gateway Arch. So they would, in their scrapbooks, they would illustrate, like what they did that day, or like write down the names of the places that they visited. We also had Polaroid cameras, so I could like print the pictures up for them right away of where we were, and they would just like paste it into the scrapbook, all old style. So that was what we did for them. And I had Cordo sent me their other Route 66 books that are being revised and updated for the centennial. And so I followed a couple of them that are written by an author named Jim Hinckley, who is one of the authorities on Route 66. And I used his book, his various books, as well as, just the maps on our phone to sort of guide us along the way. Make sure that we're staying on the right road, and also, visiting places that should be visited.
So the other books were helpful for you, because I was wondering about that, because, when I went on to Amazon and did some Googling, the other books kept coming. No, this isn't the right one because I have the book right here. So again, it's the Route 66 Cookbook by Linda Lee. Not to say I have never read the other ones, but you do need to distinguish that.
Yeah, there is another Route 66 cookbook that was published a while ago by Marion Clark. Yes, she has since passed away. And I've looked at her book too before I started mine to see like what she was covering, which is how I was able to differentiate my book from what was already written. Because she's
how'd you do that? What were some things you thought you needed to do or wanted to do?
My book follows more or less a similar formula as my other books. We really focused on photography. So everywhere that we went, like if we couldn't take a photo of the food, then we really wanted to capture the landscape, because this is a road trip. Yeah. And all of like the landscape, where it's like the muffler men, like which are those big giant figurines, to like the storefronts, to the restaurants, the signposts, all of that is part of the landscape. And we really wanted to like take people on like this little adventure while they're going through the book. So even if you are not buying it specifically for the recipes, I wanted to present it as like, it's a history book and a travel book as well, because you could really follow along on like how these restaurants have evolved, how the buildings have evolved as well. The owners who have come and go, like the next generation that now runs it and how it's different. And even since this book, technically the book has not come out yet. It comes out in 2 weeks. But since this book has been printed, I know a couple of the restaurants in the book are either for sale or, on the verge of selling, just because of how things move so quickly in the restaurant business, and especially like the landscape of Route 66.
And your restaurants going in and out of business, you just hope, and this is an evergreen show. So 2 weeks is really negligible because people could be listening to this show next year. So forget the 2 weeks part, just it's out. We're going to be in Oklahoma. We're going to keep traveling. We're in Oklahoma I know nothing about Oklahoma, but David, my husband, loves the Sooners. Not that he's ever been to Oklahoma. He just adopted the Sooners because his college, AU, American University, did not have a football team. So we watch a lot of Sooners. What is Oklahoma other than Oklahoma? What else is known? Talk to me about Oklahoma. I was intrigued by this one dish, which I would never eat or cook, called calf fries.
Yeah, so Oklahoma serves a very hearty, stick to your ribs kind of food, right?
Yeah.
But served up with this beautiful hospitality that we experienced all through the heartland. With Oklahoma, one of the things that I remember the most, because we did this trip from west to east, was we went through a period, like once we left the West Coast, there was absolutely no water, no body of water that we would want to get into. Like we weren't going to swim in the Rio Grande.
No.
And then you're going through like Arizona, Texas, New Mexico. It's really hot in summer. And I remember once we reached Oklahoma, I found a campground that was on a lake. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. I can't wait to get into the lake. And that was like my first memory is we were in Arcadia, Oklahoma, right by the round barn, right by the giant neon lit Route 66 bottle on the road. And we went swimming in our first lake, on like that whole trip. And from then on, it got so great because then we were getting into like a region that had lots of water. So I mean, that's always like my favorite memory of it.
Swimming. Well, you know what I like in Oklahoma, and we'll keep traveling along. I like the green chili apple pie from the Green Chili Kitchen. It just sounds yummy. Except there's no green chilies in it. I was all excited, but it's just the name of the place. I like the concept of having green chilies.
Well, there is. And then the apple pie, there is green chili in it.
Oh, there is? I don't see it. Oh,
yes,
chopped green chili. Chopped green chili.
Green Chili Kitchen. They are one of the, well, I believe they were the first New Mexican style restaurant in Yukon, Oklahoma. And they serve authentic New Mexican fare there. Really delicious food.
I just love the concept of green chilies and that kick with the apples. It just sounds like a great combo.
Yeah,
in there.
And I think their grandma's recipe.
Oklahoma. So Texas is a big state. Did it take you forever to get through it? I mean, and this is where the midpoint is for Route 66. So talk to me about how long did it take and where's the midpoint?
So the Route 66 crosses the panhandle of Texas. The midpoint, that you read about in all of this Route 66 folklore is supposed to be in Adrian, Texas. But I do have a small chapter in my book that counters what the actual midpoint is. So it's funny because when you get to Adrian, they have a white line drawn on the road. And there's a selfie stand across the highway from the Midpoint Cafe. And they're like, this is you have officially reached the middle of Route 66. And you can take a picture and it's actually really fun. And the Midpoint Cafe serves up delicious pies. They are known as ugly crust pies because that was their origin of how it started. But nowadays the crust is actually quite beautiful. I
make ugly crust pies naturally. I can't make a decent pie crust, period. I make ugly pie.
When I was making the pies because I do make all of these recipes and then I photograph them for the book, I was like, oh, thank God that's an ugly crust pie because I'm not the best baker.
Yeah, it's hard. You have to really baking, unlike the stuff that my husband does where he just tosses stuff in. Baking's a science. You got to follow the rules.
Yes, you do. So thank God for these ugly crust pies because my pie fit right in.
Well, the Elvis ugly crust pie really looks sloppy and gooey. It'd be really big down here in New Orleans and Tennessee and Tupelo. And it's a peanut butter and banana. I guess that's why it's called Elvis. Is there marshmallow in here too? Well, it looks like it should be marshmallow. It's one of those big meringue pies and ooey gooey. That must have been fun to make with Hershey's chocolate syrup, bananas, whipped cream, and peanut butter. Whoa.
Yeah. So what I'll say what's interesting about the Midpoint Cafe. So first of all, the midpoint is subjective, right?
Right.
Because Route 66 has changed a lot over the years, and they wiped out like over 100 miles also right around Santa Fe when they took out that segment. So
Ah,
Adrian, Texas is when you're if you're like a map geek and you're really plotting this out, it's really not the midpoint. It's not the middle, but it's close. It's like within 50 to 100 miles of what the middle of Route 66 might be in
uh-huh.
today's world, I guess. Um, but at midpoint, their ugly crust pie was baked by this wonderful woman named Joanne. And she, when the Midpoint Cafe sold, she moved on, to like other jobs and other interests. But when she retired, as her retirement project, she decided to open her own bakery.
Cute.
So she is in a neighboring town of Vega.
Mm.
And so if you want the original ugly crust pie, you could go to her place. Joanne is at, what is she? Mama Joe's Pies and Sweets.
Okay.
And so you can sample her pies and then go to the Adrian Cafe and
Okay.
the Midpoint Cafe in Adrian, and then try their pies, because that is like where the ugly crust.
When a day to drive across Texas, because it's kind of near Louisiana, I'm going to look it out. Now, okay, we have 3 more states. We got to keep driving.
Yeah.
So New Mexico, I've been to Santa Fe.
Yeah.
Man, when you get to the New Mexico chapter, you get into a lot of chili rellenos. You really see the New Mexican flavor and the south of the border flavor here.
Oh yeah.
It's quite amazing until you get to this weird thing called the Tattooed Lady and the Snoring Dog, which literally has Fruit Loops on that hot dog. Really?
Can I say that my husband really loves that hot dog and wants to make it at home?
That's so weird. Okay, maybe they were sick of chili rellenos because there's a lot of New Mexican pozole, de los rellenos, chiles rellenos again. Yeah. You got to like Mexico. I love Southwestern food. I wish I don't think it exists in Louisiana. But the Fruit Loops is an odd addition to that hot dog. It's the Tattooed Lady and the Snoring Dish, but to each their own.
It is, yes, don't knock it, because it is surprisingly good, because the Fruit Loops, you don't taste so much of the fruity flavor, but you get that very nice crunch that contrasts with all the other textures in that hot dog.
Well, New Mexico's on my list to go revisit. It's been a long time. And I'd love to do that and road trip there. I'd like to road trip all these places, but New Mexico, very high on my list. Okay, 2 more states. Arizona. I love it. You've got Winslow, Arizona. I've been to Arizona a lot, but not to any of the places you mentioned. What's weird is you see stuff in here like ceviche, which you don't think about, in halibut ceviche, which you don't envision in Arizona. And of course, my favorite, the Roadkill Cafe. Really, rack of raccoon, but that's not really raccoon.
That is not real raccoon, but
no.
Yeah. So the Roadkill Cafe is really funny. When I was speaking with the owner, they just wanted to come up with like a fun concept, that people would think about. And so their whole menu has names like that, like Rack of Raccoon and Thumper Hit the Bumper, Chicken That Almost Crossed the Road. Like it's hilarious, right? Like what they named all of their different dishes. And she said for a long time, these menus, their actual menus, were getting stolen by these tourists who wanted a souvenir, to the point where they're like, okay, well, now we're going to print extra menus and sell them in our gift shop. So you can really like buy them and take them home. Like, please don't take our menus. And she felt like it was, it was payback, because back in the day, like she would like sneak like fun little souvenirs like that before she was ever a restaurant owner.
Well, I can see where people would be, particularly in the era of social media. And you said a lot of these places don't even have a social media account. Pity, because it would have been great for them to get free PR. But everybody takes everything now, and it's a little more intrusive. Arizona, interesting fact, at the beginning of every chapter, you kind of have a little factoid. Arizona can claim the longest uninterrupted stretch of the original highway between Seligman and Kingman. I love Arizona. I think that sounds neat, because I would think one of the challenges is modernization and also budget cuts. You got to maintain this very old road. Budget cuts are a problem, and modernization and strip malls and developers are the constant, monster at the door, right?
Yeah, definitely. I mean,
Yeah.
when you travel Route 66 in a lot of these small towns, there is there's like a sign that I saw in one of the towns where it was like F the interstate,
Yeah.
because in history, when you research into what happened to Route 66, like the building of like I-40, I-44, like that is what
Mhm.
really caused the downfall of a lot of these towns that became
Yeah.
deserted. They became ghost towns.
Yeah.
It took away a lot of their business and their traffic and like their populations.
It makes me sad, but it's happening all over the place. And again, as I travel, my heart sinks when I hit the strip mall section of every place.
Mhm.
We call it the industrial section. And you just, and we traveled during COVID, there were so many places that were out of business. It was just really upsetting. Okay, then we got to go to California. This is the last state in the stop. You started there, we're ending there.
Yeah.
And I love Santa Monica. I've been there a lot. I knew, like Tale of the Pup, I knew about, Mel's Drive-In. I had some plates and cups from there, actually. And I love Grandma's chicken soup from there. That is something I plan to make because I love a good chicken soup. But what was interesting about California is when you get into the Asian, throughout all these, the recipes also reflect the heritage of the immigrants that settled there, whether it was German or Filipino or Italian. And
Mhm.
here you're seeing a lot of Asian influence and multi-Asian too, not just, because
Yeah,
Asia's,
a lot of
a
Asian fusion.
continent, right? Asian fusion. So talk to me about that, which is also where you live. So you can talk about also how it's changed since you live there.
So what I really loved about the whole drive was that, like the food changes so much
Mm-hmm.
depending on the region that you're in. And I touch on this in my writing in the book, is that so much of the food, when people think of Route 66, and I did too, before I began this trip, I was thinking it's all like, I pictured Americana, like American food, as, like your hot dogs and your bowls of chili and your hamburgers and things like that. And the more I looked into it, like Americana really envelops all of the people that came to this country and settled it, and
Mm-hmm.
brought their recipes, brought their cultures from where they came from, and then they incorporated it into where they live now. So when you look at Americana, I mean, the like all of that great southwestern food in New Mexico, like
Mm-hmm.
that is like the chile rellenos, like those are
Right.
Americana. And in California, like I have the spicy seafood soup that's at the
Right.
Albright on the
And the
pier.
sauteed mushrooms. I mean, there's just a lot of interesting dishes that reflect,
Yeah, and
the
it
heritage.
reflected the
Yeah.
people who came here, like the chefs, the
Right.
families that settled here, and they've been here now for like
Mm-hmm.
generations, and they brought that food with them. And now it's just firmly woven into like the fabric of that community.
Well, I think it's great. I think it's been a great road trip with you today. We've got to wrap it up because all great trips have to come to an end. And we have to wrap it up. But we've been talking with Linda Lee. The book is The Route 66 Cookbook,
Yep.
the best recipes from every stop along the way. I hope I've whetted your appetite for not only food, but travel, because this really is a travel book for me first, a little bit of history, a little bit of culture, travel book. Juan, if we have the book up, let's put it up again and I'll do a wrap. Great. This is the book. Take the trip and Linda, thank you. I want to thank you for sharing your enthusiasm with me today on Fearless Fabulous You. Listen, everybody up. I hope you'll take a trip, have some adventure, step out of your comfort zone, because life is too short just to sit on your butt all day and dream about doing things you want to do. Just do it. Because as I always like to say at every show, and every show, you have a choice in life. Choose to live on your terms and not on terms set by you by other people. Always choose fearless and fabulous, and always stay curious and ready to hit the road. So may all your future journeys be a good one. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for joining me. Thank you, everybody, for joining me. I can't wait to plan my next road trip. Never know where I'll be hitting the road. Thank you.